graduated here with a master's in '92. And I have to preface this with, I was a native Californian, and most of my life I grew up around celebrities in Hollywood. All my girlfriends had agents. On weekends we went to Hollywood, and once we got older we went to clubs. So Hollywood was a huge part of my life growing up. Flip side to that is I always knew that I wanted to be a journalist, and Missouri was something that was always spoken about in my family because my family's from St. Louis. So fast forward to '92, finished school, got in. I was a diehard news person. If you had mentioned entertainment to me in any kind of a way, it's like, oh no, I'm a journalist. I'm gonna get out there and take on the world, and I'm gonna be a war.
Change the world.
Yes, by the stories that I was gonna report, that was my attitude. So, I graduated from here, got my first job in Palm Springs, did everything, one-man band, anchor, reporter, thank God for Missouri journalism school because, you did everything. From there to Santa Barbara, working for the both ABC affiliates in those cases. Ended up in Raleigh, North Carolina, news, anchor, reported. Went back to Los Angeles, and I actually worked for Fox 11, Channel 9, which are independent stations. Well, actually, 9 was an independent station. And I was kind of operating on burnout. I think in all of those years, it was probably about 11 or 12 years at that point, I had never really taken a vacation. I was one of those that was just, a story. I was going to chase it on my days off. And I started developing this idea of starting a production company. There were some stories that I had reported on that I wanted to do more with various people I met in the business. So I started a production company, and not only did my company per se didn't put out any documentaries, but in terms of the setup we had, because we had equipment and editing and all of that, I helped put a number of these together. Through that, I was doing corporate videos, political commercials, you name it, and again, I was operating on burnout, and I said to myself, well, I need something for when the work dries up to keep myself going. So I was kind of looking online, and I saw they were looking for per diem. You guys know what per diem is here, don't you? You're pretty much a daily hire. In a lot of the larger markets, you may not be full-time, but they might say, okay, we're going to work you as a reporter or producer 3 days this week, or a writer. Sometimes it turns into full-time. Sometimes there are people who just like to be per diem because it allows them to do what they want to do. So I saw this job online at E, per diem producer, so I sent my resume in, kept working. A couple of weeks later, I got like the email back and it said I wasn't qualified. And it was like, what? I'm like, excuse me? So it kind of became a game where I would send them the resume, and then 3 weeks later I would get the rejection. It was like, seriously? So then I would send it again. So after about 3 or 4 months of this, the news director finally called me in, but it was through someone else. She had heard about me, and she was looking for people with news experience, because at that time, they were kind of going through a transition and wanted to bring in people with actual news backgrounds. I went in, I was only supposed to be there for a week, and that was almost 5 years ago. So that's how I ended up there.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay Powers. I don't know, is this working? I don't think so. So I graduated in 2004.
It's on. You just need to tilt it up.
As you can tell, I'm a print journalist.
I was gonna say. Okay, print. Not bad. Just
speak louder.
don't have experience with it.
They just put me in front of a computer. So I graduated from Mizzou in 2004, just my undergrad, and basically to kind of get my foot in the door at a lot of places, I went to, I think, the alumni lounge here, and got a printout of every single alumni in New York, and I just started emailing. Also, kind of started going on websites and looking for editor at Cosmo.com and stuff like that, and emailed probably 50 editors trying to get my foot in the door at a larger kind of publication, and an editor wrote me back. So when I was, here as a sophomore, I started kind of keeping up with those contacts, went to New York, met with that editor. They started throwing me some sidebars. So I would go to Harpo's and Fieldhouse with my little camera and interview guys on the street. So I kind of propelled that little experience into to an internship at Cosmo, and I did the Summer in New York program, fell in love with the city, knew I had to move there pretty much as soon as possible. And kind of like you, when I started when I first came to Mizzou. I thought I was going to be like embedded with the troops, Pulitzer Prize, and then I fell in love with New York and magazines, and next thing I know, I'm interviewing guys at Fieldhouse. But so I did that, propelled kind of from the context at Cosmo. When I spent that summer in New York, which is the best program if you are interested in kind of getting into the New York media world. Took every single alumni out for coffee who would meet with me. I ended up getting a little stringing gig at 17 magazine. Came back my senior year. Kept doing that all through, my senior year.
Reporting from Harpo's. Still,
Yeah.
I feel okay, just checking.
And, every once in a while I got a real sidebar with more words, so it was exciting. The week after I graduated from school, moved to New York. No job, no anything. A fun fact about kind of living in New York is that many times you don't have a job before you get there. Not a big deal. Just over a month or so, I ended up landing at the New York Post, which is a major daily newspaper in the city, and it was probably just the coolest place that I could have been. Such a good, thank you. Such a good experience. I ran around, I covered everything from, serious court cases, the Gotti family, I covered murders, and I kind of, as I was there a little bit longer, by the end of about 2 years, I was writing more feature-y stories. The girl who would spend 20 grand on her prom when she was 16 years old. From there, kind of still kept up with this networking. I feel like that's kind of the name of the game. And when you graduate, luckily, so many great journalists have come through Mizzou that you can always kind of reach out to them and introduce yourself. I heard about a position at Us Weekly, so went in, interviewed, and it sounded like a lot of fun. Would be traveling and all of that, and ended up getting that position. Spent about the next year and a half traveling the world. I covered Tomcat's wedding in Rome. I've covered the Cannes Film Festival. I've interviewed, Brad Pitt, Angelina, Jennifer Aniston, any of the major celebrities. It was really kind of a wild year and a half, to tell you the truth. It would be one of those things where you'd be walking down the street, my phone would ring. You don't really have a specific schedule, and suddenly, next thing you know, you're on a plane, you're in St. Bart's because J-Lo's pregnant, and you have to report that out. So that was fun. And and I grew up in the Midwest, and I hadn't traveled too much, so this was a real
This is working for me.
it was the way to see the world. And I actually jumped over to Us Weekly's website not so long ago, and that has been, it's been interesting because when I went to Mizzou, you picked your one major. You were news ed, you were magazine, or you had your one specific thing, and I ended up kind of combining newspaper and magazine. But so far, I've been in New York 4 years, and I've worked at a newspaper, a magazine, and a website. So now I'm not traveling as much anymore, but I'm writing, tons of stories every day, breaking news quickly, and learning from a different kind of tech side and a new, form of kind of what I feel is what's next with entertainment journalism.